Okay. My favorite thing about coming to this show is that Drew and I are the same height, so I don't ever have to adjust the mic. I am an expert in unrequited love because everybody falls in love with me, and never the people that I want to fall in love with me. I cannot tell you how often I have been pulled into the copy room by some frantic coworker to unexpectedly declare their love for me, or going on a first Tinder date and have someone propose. It's happened twice. And my college roommate, we're up late studying for the GRE, and she failed it. I was fine, but it was a sad night for her. And I think it's because I don't really think about love in that big romantic way that a lot of people do. And so I'm pretty impervious to it. I mean, I was a club kid. I was, out enjoying my best life in my 20s. And things like, dreamy romance, pairing up, all of that stuff was never really on my mind. And then one night, my friend Betty invited me to come out to the movies, hanging out. And she was bringing a couple of friends with her that I didn't know. And I walked up to the movie theater that used to be on the corner of 34th Street and 2nd Avenue, and it was this very crisp, not quite spring night, and it was already dark. And the front of the theater was glass, and it was all lit up in this tacky gold carpet and tacky gold everything. And I was early, because I'm usually early. And I looked into the theater, and there was this guy standing there. And he was looking out towards me, but I didn't know if he could see me. And he had this really beautiful, perfect, curly black hair. And his profile should have been stamped on a Roman coin, breathtaking. And I'm sort of there and it felt like a pulse of energy from the middle of the earth shot up through my feet, went through my whole body, and shot out the top of my head. And as I was standing there admiring him, he comes walking through the lobby door, and he's coming towards me, and he's getting closer and closer. And when he was a pace away from me, I realized that he smelled like shoplifted peppermint lifesavers and the first day of school, and that sort of little hint of sneak smoking a cigarette on your grandmother's back porch when Thanksgiving dinner gets really awful with your family. And before I can say anything, he goes, "What's up?" And I realized that my friend Betty has walked up towards me, and she's standing from behind, and she is standing next to me, and he was talking to her. And everything in slow motion, she turns and says, "Edith, this is Christopher and his girlfriend Lisa." And I was just like, I had not really experienced anything like that before, and I was a little stressed out about it, but I was like, okay, these emotions and that beautiful flame of energy that had surged through me withdrew like a black hole, star crushing. And we went out to dinner, and we saw the movie and the whole thing, and he was really cool. And so over the course of the next 2 years, he became one of our group. And sometimes girlfriend Lisa came along, and sometimes girlfriend Lisa stayed her ass home. And every time we would go out, we'd hang out, we went to movies. So we went to see bands, all kinds of things. So I ended up seeing him about once a week for 2 years. And I realized that we had never seen each other alone. So we were like good acquaintances, and I would even say friends, but we had never spent a moment alone together. And the reason I realized that is because he got a job in the office building next door to where I worked, and there was the first time we were actually alone together. Now, over the course of these 2 years, I knew he was involved, so that beautiful flame was just crushed, stamped out, extinguished, so we could be friends. And we started to hang out together in this really crappy little, like they make these corporate parks between buildings. And there are the like pebbly concrete benches, really uncomfortable. But we would meet there a couple times a week and have lunch together. And we started to talk about all of the things that you talk about, your plans for life, just the things that you talk about when you're really becoming an intimate friend with someone. And this goes on for months. And then it's a fine sunny day, and in the morning he called me and said, at my job, and was like, hey, do you want to have lunch today? I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And we meet up in the park, and he walks, and I'm sitting there in the really crappy, pebbly bench that's very uncomfortable. And he walks up to me, and he's standing in front of me, and he said, I have something to say, and I don't know how you're going to react. And he reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out this little dark blue velvet ring box. And he opens it up, and there's a diamond engagement ring in there. And he said, I'm really nervous because I'm asking Lisa to marry me tonight. Luckily, he was so concentrating on being nervous that he did not see my reaction, because I am the worst liar in the world. I can't hide anything. So when that box came out, what I thought was extinguished flared again. And then I realized that it was a pear-shaped diamond with yellow gold, and it was like, oof, I would never wear that. So they get married. And I was invited to the wedding, and you will be damn sure I showed up to that wedding in a very slinky red dress. And I was the life of the party until the very end, and after the bride and groom had gone off, and I had way too much to drink, I just pulled his brother out onto the terrace of some random country club in Westchester and was like, oh my God, he got married, and said all this, how much I love him, and all of these things about Christopher. And luckily, Stephen had no memory of it the next day, so safe. So Christopher and I are still friends. Like, we stayed friends after that. Obviously, there was no reason for us not to be friends. And about 8 years passed, and we're still friends. And one morning went to the diner, we're hanging out, and he says to me, Lisa and I are getting divorced. And when your friend tells you that they're getting divorced, you can be glad about it, especially if they're having a difficult marriage and you want to be a supportive friend and all of those things. And I realized that that flame that I thought had been extinguished a second time had just really shrunk down to like a pilot light. And when he said that, it was like click, 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 whoosh. But I thought, I will not be fooled again. And I said, that's really terrible. I know things have been hard. It's probably going to be messy for a little while. You're my friend. I'm here for you if you need me. And at that point, I had been in graduate school, and I moved down to Virginia. So we kind of we didn't talk as much over the next 6 months or so. And then I knew I was going to be back in New York City, going to Israel. I'm an archaeologist. I was going to work on a dig. I was going to be gone for a couple of months. And he said, when you're in town. And I realized he was now single. And he said, when you're in town, I really, really want to see you. Can we make time? And I said, yeah, sure. But when I came to New York, I was like, I am not going to make any time for this. He's all over the place. I do not want to be this guy's rebound. So I made excuses until the very last day, and then I went off. But before I left, I said, I don't have time to see you, but you could write to me while I'm gone. Here's my address. So off I go to Israel. And now, all the time that we've been friends, it's not like I've been, pining away, not dating. I've had relationships. I was a party girl. I was out living my best life. So, I get to Israel. I'm there. I'm working. And about a month later, I get a letter from him. And it's this letter, and it says, it's just telling me he was flying to Los Angeles, and in the first 15 minutes of his flight, he spilled a full cup of coffee all over him and had to fly to LA in coffee-drenched pants. And so I show this to my fellow graduate student roommate, and I said, he's in love with me. And she says, I don't think so. And I said, I know when people are in love with me. There are signs, like if you go to Starbucks and they write these really cute little pet names for you on the cup, or I went to the DMV to register my car and the guy mistakenly puts that my car is gray instead of white, so I have to come back and deal with it. I have my ex-boyfriend sending me mixtape with subliminal messages. I know what love looks like from this side. And she says, I really don't think so. So I didn't write back, and over the course of the next month or two, I keep getting letters from him. And there are all these really, homey details of his life. And I keep insisting, he is in love with me, and nobody believes me. So I don't reply. I come back to the States. I go back to Charlottesville. I'm at University of Virginia. And I decide, now is the moment to answer this question. And I write a note. It says, Dear Christopher, I have been in love with you since the first moment I saw you. And over the last 10 years, that has only grown deeper and stronger. It will not affect our relationship at all, because this is how I have felt for the entirety of our friendship. I just thought you should know. Love, Edith. Mailed it. And a week goes by. Nothing. A week goes by. No answer. And then I'm sitting on my porch in Virginia, and this car is driving really, really slowly down the street, and it's this ugly purple that they only do rental cars, and pulls up in front of my house, and the window rolls down, and in the streaming sunlight are the glistening curls and that Roman coin stamp profile, and he leans his arm on the window and goes, "Sup?"
Dr. Edith Gonzalez, everyone. All right.